as you all know, Tara is in Hawaii, so she couldn't be here. So I get to interview Toby, which is actually really great because I know Toby and have worked with him for years, and so it's really fun for me to be able to introduce you all to Toby Corey and to ask him your questions that you all came up with. You came up with some great questions in the class. I really appreciate it. And I feel like the workshop that we did on Monday, it felt like y'all heard what Tara was saying about getting specific and asking those tough questions. And some of you really kind of grokked, I felt, Toby's ethos in a really great way. And so the questions really reflected that. And I want to welcome all the other people that are in the class, and y'all are invited to every guest speaker that we're going to be having on Wednesdays at 5:20 here. They'll be live. Next week we have Lloyd Tabb. Lloyd Tabb is the co-founder of Looker, which was sold to Google for $1.4 billion. Unicorn startup. Started here in Santa Cruz. Him and his partner actually came up with the idea as they would commute over the hill to San Jose. So it's like you never know where those great ideas are going to come, right? You're like sitting in the car, you're in traffic, and you're like coming up with a new idea, like a new idea that comes out and ends up being, a $1 billion sale for you and your stakeholders, right? So it's a great story, and I hope you all can come and see Lloyd next week as well. Toby is, as one person in the room figured it out very quickly, a restless soul. And that's something that I think I've heard him describe himself as, and is completely true. The person here next to me is a restless soul. And in some ways that embodies the entrepreneurial spirit. And as we know, entrepreneurs need innovation. So it also, I think, is a part of the innovative grounding and what you might say for entrepreneurs. Toby has had an amazingly successful run in the tech world. He started a web company that was the biggest web company, one of the first web companies in the world, called Web USA. Grew it to $1 billion company. Also worked at Solar City. Can tell you many great stories about Elon Musk and working with that person. And has taught at Stanford for many years. And actually this class is a reflection of Toby. Toby was who came to me and said, I want to create a similar class that we have at Stanford here at UCSC. And it was called Rebels on the Rise. It didn't happen. But Tara and I picked it up, and we owe it to many of the aspects of this class come directly from Toby. So the fact that he's our first guest is actually really appropriate and makes my heart sing. Toby has been CEO, he was CTO of Cruise Foam for nearly 3 years. Many of you may know about Cruise Foam. It was started by an electrical engineering professor. He was the chair of the department here at Electrical Computing Engineering, Marco Rolandi. And Marco is still, I believe, the CEO of Cruise Foam, which is an alternative material to styrofoam and is incredibly needed today in our world that has way too much plastic and polystyrene crap, and has recently had a company called Tool, T-U-U-L, which was a chatbot agent, another very well exited idea that Toby came up with. And currently he's working on, how many startups have you started? Are you counting? Can you count?
I'm just focused on the one problem that's troubling me right now.
That's right. That's that one thing that's in front of him. Right now it's called Brand
Capsule.
Brand Capsule. And it is wonderful. I can't wait to see it in action. We're going to hear all about it from Toby. And so, Toby, do you have anything you want to add or say to the class before we get going?
Yeah, I do. Let's see here. I think you kind of captured the narrative pretty well. I am not here to sell anything. I'm not the Peter Thiel, do these 3 things. Although there's some good books. Lesson Zero is a great book. There's some really great books out there to read around entrepreneurship. I kind of have a different philosophy and a different belief, which is that I think all of us, our greatest gift as human beings is we have this incredible creative capability. It manifests itself in very different ways. Whether you're amazing in math, or a musician, or a poet, or a writer, software engineer, like whatever that might be. And creativity is insanely mysterious, similar to what consciousness is, right? It's like the hardest problem to solve. You have 86 billion neurons firing in your brain. There's synapses in there. It's connecting to different regions of your brain. And there's a being and an awareness that you have around the world. What the color red looks like to you. What the taste of chocolate feels like on your tongue. What you're thinking right now. What you feel right now. If I asked you to go back to your earliest memory, childhood memory, and said, hey, can you put yourself in your bedroom? I'll bet you all could. You know what, did you have carpet in there? What kind of bed? Do you remember your bedspread? Do you remember your bureau? Remember your parents, your brothers and sisters? I guarantee you that's a very, where does that memory live? Right? Is it really in your brain? Is there some other field? And then we start to extrapolate that a little bit further. There's a really interesting emerging science around quantum mechanics, which is what happens at the subatomic level. And that flows into basically wave and particles, and it's insanely mysterious of where does consciousness lie there? Does it lie in a universal field, right? So if you start to break down, who we are, you're made, basically you start with the periodic table, right, with molecules and atoms, and then from there, where does consciousness exist? And with that, in my mind, becomes the currency of the 21st century, which is creativity. Every company will pay for creativity. And especially as we get into an AI era world, right, which is going to be doing lots of things, there's going to be good, there's going to be bad, just like any innovation on the planet, right? People have drove cars really well and they were useful. People have drove them into people in parades that they disagree with their political views. And I think that the opportunity here at this point in time is literally unprecedented where we stand. The ability to start a new business, to do it so quickly, so inexpensively, it's never existed, ever, right? For those that saw my class yesterday, let me just take you through just a quick innovation timeline and what that feels like today. So, I don't know, 12,000 years ago, we were just hunters and gatherers, right? I think our species has been around, Homo sapiens, 200,000 years, maybe 300,000, somewhere in there. Basically could draw stuff on a cave wall in France. But life basically was, can I eat, do I get clothed, and shelter, right? That was it, right? They lived in tribes. And then an innovation started around, I don't know, 8,000 or 10,000 years ago around agriculture, right? We learned how to actually plant things, learned about soil, composition of soil, weather patterns, when to plant, what to plant, where, rainfall, moving that, and began an economy around that, where people could trade some seashells for a basket of corn. Cities started to emerge, communities, social aspects of being a human being, and then a massive leap forward when the Industrial Revolution started, right? A combustion engine, airplanes, automobiles, factories, manufacturing, producing material. Economy grows in different ways. And for those that have seen those shifts, ride those waves, have done really well. Right? There's a reason why there's not a lot of blacksmiths around today, because people aren't, I didn't show up here on a horse, right? So understanding where those trends are and where they evolve and how to connect with them in my mind, still boils down to that one substrate, which is all around creativity. And then if you fast forward through that Industrial Revolution, the era of information technology, probably, I don't know, 1950s, maybe the first mainframe was invented. It was probably at least the size of this room or half of this room. And there are more CPU cycles on this thing than there was on a machine bigger than this room. That's extraordinary. That's amazing, right? And then, as amazing as information technology was, manifesting itself into what personal computers on everyone's desk, right? That's kind of when I started the information age. And as that was moving, there was another new massive innovation, the rise of the digital economy. And it started with this guy named Tim Berners-Lee. He was a scientist at CERN in Switzerland. It's where the largest particle collider exists today, the Hadron Particle Collider. And he invented two really interesting technologies, HTML, right, which we all use today, it's your web browser, right? It's how you communicate with information today, and an underlying protocol called HTTP. And it transformed the world. We now are a digital economy. You can buy and sell things online. You can start a business. You can interact with customers. Back before that, if you had a product or a service, you had to figure out, like, oh, can I get Target to carry my product, or Home Depot to carry my product, or shelf space on retail. And then you have disintermediation that occurs and creates new opportunities. And the extension of that is mobile computing. And as we sit here today, an opportunity of artificial intelligence that it's not just a buzzword. It, in my opinion, will be the most significant innovation and invention ever created by our species. I'll give you just two small examples. Today, you're consuming electricity, or PG&E is using artificial intelligence to help with generation, to help with distribution, and better transmission. I got my teeth cleaned on Monday. They took an x-ray and plopped it up, said, hey, let me show you how we're using AI today, Toby. Like, whoa, you're not flossing too well here. Like, boom, overlay came on. That would have been basically like, maybe I got diagnosed with some, better brushing or flossing or whatever that might be. And what it represents today is an opportunity of unboundedness creativity. You can literally create anything for a few $100s. That's never existed before. And I'm living proof of that. I started out as an econ major. I ended up getting a minor in computer science. I started as a software test engineer. And at best, I was an average programmer, at best. And I was living on the East Coast. We were hiring guys at MIT, really smart guys, probably like Jim. And I probably could become an above average programmer. I was never going to be a great programmer. Just the aptitude. My aptitude had a certain level to it. Could have I got better? Sure. Could have worked harder at it. I don't want to be above average in anything that I do in life. That seems like a really boring life for me, right? I want to have an exciting life. I want to experience all of what life has to offer, the ups, the downs, the sideways movements, the good, the bad, the ugly, and everything in between. Because what I will tell you is that there's been about 90 billion of us ahead of time. No, I don't know if anyone's come back from the dead, right? So you live one life, there's only one you, and it goes by really quick. So the question I ask myself every day is like, am I living life to the fullest? Am I living without regrets, right? And regrets is a different word. It doesn't mean like I haven't screwed stuff up. I have. Regrets are basically like, sure, if I could go back in time, there's a lot of things I would do differently, right? I don't have a time machine, right? But what I do is like, am I living life to the fullest, right? And everyone has a different definition of what living life to the fullest is. And basically, so from that, one of the most important lessons today, and one of the secrets to success in life, especially in your career, is developing really good mentorships and relationships, right? It's something you have to seek out. Mentorships have to be bi-directional. It's like a relationship where you're dating someone, or you have an employer. The employer's expecting things from you. You're expecting things from the employer. You have a relationship. Mentorship works the same way. And I've always been good at finding really good mentors throughout my career. And so at that time when I was struggling as a software engineer, I went to my mentor and said, man, I'm really frustrated. I can be a better coder. I'm never going to be a great coder. And he said, Toby, what do you want to do with your life? And I was 23. I said, I want to run my own company someday. He said, awesome. Go into product management. And a product management role is one where it's kind of a mini CEO, because you have to figure out what's a need in the marketplace, what does the competitive landscape look like. You have to like develop requirements, product requirements. You have to work with engineering and product developers to actually make that product. It's got to perform a certain way, right? Then you got to like figure out how to market it. So then you got to work with marketing, and you know what marketing's about. You got to sell that thing, right? Then you work with sales and figure out what sales is all about. Your product needs to be supported. You start working with tech support. Hey, your product has to make money. You got to work with finance and figure out like, hey, how much revenue are you going to generate? How much profit? And all of that really great stuff. And so my inside joke is like, what do they do with mediocre programmers? They make them product managers. But it was a really great calling because I felt a deep connection to the work that I was doing. I felt like I was good at it, and I could get better at that. And so in addition to mentorship, some other reoccurring themes that you're going to hear today is other factors that drive success and high quality in life is, at a bare minimum, is like, are you intellectually curious? Right? If you're not interested in anything, there again, it's like, it's hard to get a good job, it's hard to get a good education, it's hard to have a high quality of life, and sometimes you figure that out later on in life. But I think that quality is a reoccurring theme of people that have had success in life. The second thing is to have, whatever that might be, is to, whatever you decide to do, is to put your heart and soul into that. And work to be the best at that, no matter what. So if you take intellectual curiosity, you're getting good advice from people, and whatever it is where you want to apply yourself, you're the best at doing that, and you're never happy with where you are, then those are typical really good ingredients for like really excelling in your career, having the kind of life that you want, right? At the same time, it's not for everybody, right? If you want to go live on an island, I'm guessing you still probably want to read some books, get educated, right? But if you just start with those sort of basic things that we all have, right? We all have imagination, we all can focus on things, we all can become intellectually curious and work hard. It doesn't really matter. It could be like, did you ever go into a restaurant and notice like a really good waiter or waitress and what that experience felt like? And one that was really shitty? That person didn't care about you? That person is going somewhere in life, right? Be the best at what you do, right? Remember one summer in high school I had a job as a janitor in a paint store. And I made sure like didn't loaf, could have loafed, like every day, every ounce of that carpet was vacuumed, the conference room was completely clean. I wanted to be the best at whatever I applied myself to. And the story actually is richer than that because I always had a really challenging time with comprehension. I've always been behind in comprehension. And again, that manifested itself in like not being a good speller and not being a good test taker, no matter what, no matter how hard I studied. And I didn't let that get me down, right? Even though instead of like, oh my God, like there's so many students in my high school that are so much smarter than me or in college, like it didn't really faze me at all, right? And so mindset becomes a really important factor of how to deal with limitations, setbacks, or what have you. And who would have thought somebody who literally, on my best day, if you like, doubled my SAT scores, I could never get into Stanford, and I taught there for 11 years. Who would have thought that somebody that went to Southern Connecticut State, like was an executive at Tesla Motors, or created his own company and took that public? And the point of the story, it's not about me bragging. The point of the story is like, the only barrier is you. I know it sounds like a cliche, but it truly is. The only thing holding you back in life is you. And it doesn't mean you'll have some ideas. You may fail. I've failed. Actually, if you go to my LinkedIn, I look like the greatest entrepreneurial rock star on the planet. I've had more failures than successes in life. Failed startups than I've had successes. I don't use the word failure. I use the word like, what did I learn? Right? And how can I apply that going forward? And so it's hard to imagine, although, you know, with artificial general intelligence, who knows? But at the end of the day, the future is going to be shaped by people like you in this room, right? And what my ethos looks like is, as far as I know, we are the most intelligent species on this planet. Just look around, look what we've created, right? Good, bad, and ugly, and indifferent. In my opinion, having this capability in this as a human being, in my mind, comes with like a deep moral responsibility. And that is like, are you creating more opportunities or more problems for future generations? And where I sit today, unfortunately, we're creating more problems. That bothers me. One person can't solve that. What can happen though is that my one main message today is just to expand your mind. Have you leave this room thinking a little bit differently. That's it. I'm here to plant seeds. That's my job. Some of you may grow up to create the greatest companies ever that really can change the world. And I think can act in a way that is not a zero-sum game or mutually exclusive. You can actually do really great things. You can take care of future generations. You can care about the planet. You can care about sustainability. You can take care of your shareholders. You can take care of your employees. Like, all those things are really possible. And people confuse that with like, oh, can only do A or B. And it's only a limitation that you see of why that's happening. And at where I started this, long opening set of remarks was that it's the creativity at the end of the day that's what's going to get value. And when I first went to interview at Solar City, Elon Musk was the largest shareholder there. And I went and interviewed with him. And I got that opportunity through relationships, right? It wasn't like a job posting for a chief revenue officer. Built really great relationships throughout my entire life, right? Really good network throughout my life. And I said, look, Elon, like, I have no solar experience whatsoever, zero. Why are you hiring a solar person? He said, because I'm not building a solar company, Toby. I'm building a 21st century clean energy company. That's a different company. It's a different vision. That's a different mindset. And what I value is creativity and entrepreneurship. And you created a company on your own, from scratch, right? You solved a lot of problems. You had to figure a lot of stuff out to become successful. That's what I value. I want that skill set here. It can be applied anywhere, right? And so, had that opportunity to be intellectually curious. In every job that I had, I focused on nothing but being the best at what I did. I want to learn everything about what's going on. And so, we'll get to these questions in a second, but where we are today, so I'll talk a little bit about what I'm building right now. It's an AI discovery tool, and the short version of like, it's a big problem because what's happening right now is the old ways. So companies basically need to generate revenue, right? So what happens is you acquire customers and they pay you for your goods or services. What you try to do is that, like, hey, can I sell them more things, get more revenue per customer? That's a good thing, right? Create new products, new services. And hopefully, like, I don't have too much churn, customers that leave me. But I also need to get new customers. So the way new customers came to your business was through your website and what was called SEO, search engine optimization. It's a $350 billion market today of search engine optimization, where you would learn basically what Google does. Google literally just printing money. They crawl websites, depending how popular the site is, it'll be the frequency that it gets crawled. It indexes, like kind of a catalog. And then when somebody types something in Google, it would present a ranked page of blue links. And you as the user could decide, oh, which link do I want to click on? And then I would go to that company's website, decide whether I like it, I want to be a customer, I want to learn more about those goods or services, or I backspace and click on another link. That $350 billion market is evaporating very quickly right now because there's a new paradigm, right? There's a massive disruption because what people are doing today is they are trusting their favorite AI chat, Claude or GPT or Gemini. Those don't present a ranked page of links to you to click on. When you ask it an open-ended question like, hey, my dog's an 8-year-old Doberman, he's got sensitive skin, looking for a shampoo from, click, hit return. ChatGPT or Claude will tell you like, oh, these are the 4 or 5 products that you should look at. And if you're not in that answer, you're invisible, you're not gonna get a new customer. That's a huge problem, like that's a massive change. And once it's an interesting problem, it's a really cool opportunity, market's really huge, pain points becoming more and more acute. But the thing that underlies that, my vision for that is that in the past, basically, companies typically were successful based on the size of their marketing budget. So if you're Procter & Gamble, you buy shelf space, you have a big balance sheet, you basically can buy customer loyalty, or Amazon, or Walmart, right? So basically, the brand became successful because of how our capitalist society worked. And Google loved it, they just print money. I think that AI has a different motivation, which is to ensure that they're delivering great value by giving you the best answer. That's a very different motivation than Google today. Google doesn't give a shit. It's just like print money, spend more money in SEO, buy more Google AdWords, pay for paid insertion, right? Money, 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 right? If you think about your favorite chat, if it doesn't answer your question well, you're not going to use it. Like if you asked it to solve an algebra problem and got it wrong, would you be using it? No. If you asked it like when did California become a state and answered it wrong, you're not going to use it. Well, the same is going to apply as you start using it in a different use case, which is for, hey, I'm interested in that dog shampoo. I'm a 22-year-old female, I have sensitive skin, I'm looking for a face moisturizer that's good for the planet. So its motivation isn't to like print money or give you an answer based on its ability to monetize it. Its design, its inherent value is to answer that question based on the efficacy and the best product, not the one with the biggest budget. So I think there's a very unique opportunity where the small guy, the small brand that has a good product and a good brand doesn't have the marketing budget that Walmart has, but can still be successful. And that's my hope. And underlying kind of all the work that I'm doing would be like an amazing opportunity if we could somehow balance the playing field a little bit. Because what's happened is that our livelihood and our life is largely controlled by a few hundred people. It really does work that way. Right? Politics is badly broken. Our capital society doesn't serve everyone well. And there again, like it's not an either-or scenario. Like, oh, capitalism has to work because of the great jobs, but fuck the environment, right? It doesn't have to work that way. It only works that way because like the limitations that we place on ourselves. And nothing is impossible, right? And I'll even like when I started US Web, I downloaded my first web browser. And here's where this story started. I was running $1 billion software business. At the time, we had these things called network operating systems. We don't have them anymore because basically everything's running in the cloud. But before that, there was these things called network operating systems. It was a big business. And I would spend lots of time with customers. Once I'm intellectually curious, I was starting to lose business to Microsoft NT Server, and I'm a competitive person. I want to continue to create great products and build really great businesses that employees love to work, love to learn, can earn the kind of money commensurate with what their goals are in life. And customers were telling me, look, Toby, I know I have to invest in information technology, but at the time, everyone had like a different workstation, like Dell or Compaq, different operating systems. Applications were actually, they weren't running in a web browser. You actually downloaded a piece of software, you ran it, your IT department handled basically setting up your account and all, and it was like, it was very expensive to manage information technology. And so I was talking to customers like, look, Toby, I know I have to invest, but what's happening is like, it's costing me more and more to manage this stuff, which means I'm getting less and less value from the dollars I'm investing in information technology. So that problem stuck with me. And then when I downloaded my first web browser, like in 1993, I said, man, most people saw like, oh, instead of printing a brochure, I just make a web page. Sure, that's like really easy to do. What I saw was basically the interface to the problem of heterogeneous environments. So think of it as like an interface or a layer. Like think of your home, right? Your home basically pulls 110 volts of electricity. 220 is just 110 volts. Imagine if your appliances ran on different voltages. Your toaster was at 37 volts. Your refrigerator ran on, like that's what information technology was, like really expensive, like didn't work really well, right? And so that was the vision that I had for this company. Now, I was never an entrepreneur. I never raised any money my entire life. And this business was like a professional services business where we work with customers and we build e-commerce sites, intranets and extra. So like none of that, right? It didn't stop me, right? I'm gonna figure this out, right? We ended up building the best company, the biggest company. And the point is that you're literally only limited by your vision and your mindset and what you can or can't do in life. So, kind of circle back here, what can be built? Remember I said I was like a terrible programmer? I haven't written a line of code since 1985. This product that we're gonna start generating revenue next week on was built in 3 months. And I asked my CTO, who's a great CTO by the way, I said, Tom, if I gave you 9 more engineers, how long would it have taken you to build the kind of product that we have? He said 18 months with 10 engineers. It would have cost me $1 to $2 million just to get where I am now on literally a few $1,000s. And on top of that, I am also with Claude Code and contributing significant amounts of product development into this, right? And learning how to use that tool, right? And being aware of like how my product works, architecture, and AI is only as good as your ability to understand how to use it, right? It's like a circular saw. Everyone can use it. Not everyone can do finished carpentry in your kitchen. Some people could just cut 2x4s and do framing. Other people do beautiful carpentry work, right? And that's the way to think about AI. It's a tool, right? So the better you understand it, can apply it to what interests you in life and what you're excited and passionate about, is going to put you in a great position for your career. It's just like when the web came along. There were old people that stuck in client server, and then if you weren't part of the web wave and the web opportunity, didn't learn and understand how to use it, what this technology was, you got left behind. That's why people don't get newspapers delivered to their home anymore. Right? The world's changed quite a bit since the digital economy has emerged. And so I've just never seen a period of time where the opportunity is so unbelievably infinite and awesome. And that's what I hope to leave you with today, is to think about like what that means. You walk out of here with a different perspective. So anyway, short intro.
Nice, right on. I love it. Toby, I have a 2-part question that I want to start with. The part of it came from our student. It asks, what skills should students start developing now to thrive in an AI-driven world? You've been talking about creativity. You've been talking about grit. You've been talking about curiosity. How do you cultivate creativity, grit, and curiosity?
Yeah.
And what else would you say our students need to be working on?
Yeah, so this kind of blends with, like I ended up building out an entirely different framework for teaching at Stanford called Entrepreneurship. And it does, again, revolve around this concept of creativity is the currency of the 21st century. Creativity is the highest quality endeavor in life. So getting into a little bit of science, our brains basically have 5 primary wave states that impact creativity, and a lot around quality of life. So I might have it reversed. I think delta is deep sleep. The waves are very long. Think about your deep sleep, right? Not conscious. Theta is one more of like REM sleep. I'm tired, I'm maybe in and out of sleep. I kind of wake up, I go back to sleep. Again, it's not really a conscious state. Most of us spend time with a brainwave pattern. It's called beta. It's very choppy. And I bet if I looked at some of your computers, like how many tabs do you have up, Instagram, Excel, email, all of that context switching, right? I gotta do this paper, I gotta do that. And there's no creativity there at all. And matter of fact, you stay in that state too long, a lot of anxiety builds up, a lot of health problems will end up building up, your body will generate cortisol, it messes with your somatic system, and over time, inflation builds up, and you end up with health problems over time. In order to deal with like just the chaosness of life, there are two other interesting brain waves. One is alpha, and alpha are symmetrical waves. They're kind of far apart, where you can really relax your breathing, your heart rate, your pulse all comes down, and you get to a relaxed state, right? People find it different ways. For me, I'm not really good at meditating because I do, like, my brain goes nuts, as you can tell. I have to find different ways to figure out how to calm that down. And largely, I have a rescue dog. He's awesome. So every morning we go for our walk. I try not to do phone calls, and I get to live by the ocean, and that's my time to do that. Or I'll take a walk. So the things that I can do that, or something you like meeting, not at shrine, coffee, get out of the daily routine. And some people can do it through knitting, poetry, listening to music, lots of ways. There's a more interesting brainwave pattern. Those that aren't familiar with transcendental meditation, it was created by this guy named, actually an Indian guru that David Lynch made popular around the world. And basically they claim that through this type of meditation and mantra, for 20 minutes in the morning and 20 minutes at night, you can get into basically what's called the samadhi state, right? And that brainwave state, basically, although they're symmetrical, they're very tight together. And it has to do a lot with flow state. I don't know if there's any athletes out here, but I guarantee you, like, if you've ever been an athlete where something like, man, I can't miss a three-point shot today. I'm like gliding on the soccer field, and things are just coming easy, and I'm figuring it out. Or a math problem that I struggle with, just like, bing, all of a sudden, like, that's flow state, right? For me, I get that in surfing. I literally, my phone's not out there, my laptop is not out there. The ocean somehow is the most magical medicine on the planet for me. I feel the energy, right? The resonance, the wavelength of the ocean connects deeply with my soul. And I'm out there, I'm on a wave, I'm like, oh my God, this is crazy. Like, I'm on this thing, it's a piece of energy, I'm floating on it, and I'm literally completely in that gamma state wave, right? It's gamma waves. That's where your best learning comes in, your most amazing creativity can happen. And so part of like this framework is, if you kind of looked at a three-dimensional axis, on the x-axis, I really call that consciousness, which has to do with like, am I expanding along that dimension? Or am I staying in a beta state phase literally every day, right? So I spend time to figure out how I'm gonna like unwind, I'm gonna decompress, and that's part of like one of the most important components of how to cultivate creativity. The second one is the y-axis, which is how much information am I gathering or being exposed to, right? It's kind of a factor of physics. What am I reading? Who am I meeting? What podcasts am I listening to? All of that, right? And if it's the same shit every day, then I'm not expanding along that dimension. And that's the problem with like becoming a human being. What ends up happening is also tied to this is this concept called neuroplasticity. What neuroplasticity is basically is how rich is the neural network that's moved by chemical and electrical signals in your brain. What ends up happening is that over time that shrinks because you're not using it. The brain is a very expensive consumer of energy. So as that neuroplasticity starts to collapse, it's almost like, I mean, a mountain bike or you see a rut in the road. So as you start to have the same thoughts, the same thinking, the same behavior, your brain goes, oh, that's efficient. And it basically then actually creates a mylar around those neurons and those synapses so it's actually faster. That's where addiction and anxiety start, because you can't get out of that rut because your brain's, that's why psychedelics is such an interesting field of study, where it can really help to break these really deep pathways that lead to destructive type of behavior or thinking the same way. And it's why like our entire world is wired that way, which is all media is designed to do. It's a complete psychology operation, which is like, hey, I want to animate Republicans, I want to animate Democrats because we make more ad money, right? So you get a social graph and it just feeds you what it can animate you on. And it knows if you're a Democrat, I got to show you more stuff about how Trump sucks or what have you, right? and you just lose all critical thinking because you're basically being animated, you're being manipulated, and you're being controlled. And so what ends up happening there, and I did this LinkedIn experiment, I talk about this example all the time, but if you reach out to like a bunch of people, and enough people click that they don't know you, you're going to get a message from LinkedIn saying, don't reach out to people you don't know. The exact opposite should be true. You should be meeting entirely new people with different points of view, hopefully more educated people that can argue and educate you on their point of view and why it's different, why it's unique, and that's what really makes life really interesting, where meritocracy can actually really win, not just the biggest billionaire who can buy an election somewhere, right? So as you start to look at like, okay, mentally, like how much am I expanding on my information gap? Because what wisdom and knowledge is just information that I've gathered that I can use in a unique way. And part of that has to do with this thing called physics, which is like creativity comes from like how many unique data points can you get in your sphere of consciousness? So if there's not a lot, then your creativity's more narrow band, right? But if you're meeting new people, getting exposed to different things, and intellectually curious, creativity then starts to come from like getting your mind into that right sort of brainwave activity, and then looking and connecting like two disparate dots, something new pops in, it connects to here or there, exploration, experimentation. That's why like PhD people are, they're doing this like really great science work and exploring things and running science experiments on things that don't exist, trying to prove hypotheses, etc. And then the Z-axis is really all about what I call your work product, right? At the end of the day, you're doing something. You're writing a document, you're taking a test, you're handing a paper in, you're creating a song, you're creating a software product, all of that, right? And like, how amazingly awesome is that, right? Are you getting better at doing that, right? And so that really boils down to like the sort of substrate of both like expanding neuroplasticity, understanding like what creativity really is, and how to basically harness that. And that's what I truly believe is that as powerful as AI is, I could be wrong someday, who knows, I've been wrong before, but AI I still think it's going to replace certain aspects of like tasks and remedial things that we do, but I think like there's an opportunity to like ride that wave and utilize it in a way where it can absolutely skyrocket your learning. And I'll tell you right now, like I have never been able to learn at the level that I have in my entire life right now because of AI. And it's only as good as basically what I'll call your sort of, you need context and what I call institutional knowledge. Like you got to aim it somewhere. And if you use it in a shallow way, it's going to be a shallow tool. And it really is like relentlessly like pulling different threads, going deeper and deeper and deeper, finding like where I actually broke AI or where I'm smarter than AI. Then you know you're actually doing something there, right? Or like already knew that, like challenge me on something else, and literally giving it a million different problems to solve. And like I just started using it across my business, which is like, okay, old way to build a web application or a website would be, you have a designer, they create a look and feel for that digital property, and then a couple people sit around the room, yeah, I like this design, and then a UX UI person would use a product like Figma. They create all these assets, like what the screens look like, the brand style guide, the font, the point size for headings, subheadings, color, all of it, and then hire a web developer that then has to code all this stuff up. I have a really good UX UI developer. Her skill set doesn't go away. Matter of fact, it's even more. But I don't want her like having to create massive time and all these assets, then try to hand it off to a web developer and you iterate back and forth a million times. Like now, like I'm doing all the front end development. I'm doing a Claude code. And I'm going to teach her how to eventually use it, but you just basically compress what used to take weeks and cost thousands and thousands of dollars, developing provisional patents, filing those patents. Like literally like the workflows are unlimited what can happen. And like the traditional organizational structure isn't going to exist the way it exists today. The traditional way businesses operate aren't going to exist the way they operate today. All of that is going to dissolve and manifest itself into something entirely new, right? And so like the three questions I would ask a student if I were hiring, like one, like do you use AI? Like if the answer is no to that, like that interview's over really quick. But also like, okay, tell me how you're using it. And if it's really shallow, like I can tell you haven't really done stuff, you haven't spent time and energy to learn it, figure out where its outer limits are, then like job interview's over. And if you pass that threshold, like, okay, tell me how you're gonna use it in your job, right? That's the skill set. It's just like Elon said, like, I'm valuing entrepreneurial skills. Entrepreneurs can solve really hard problems. You have the tools and the intellect and the mindset, the grit, the energy to figure out how to do that. And a lot does come from creativity. Even the company I'm doing right now, I've already pivoted massively once. So, again, coming back to that reoccurring theme, which is like, that is thinking about like, the most important asset that you have that's fixed is time. There's a beginning and a middle and an end for all of us, everybody in this room. So every day I'm up like, how am I using that? Well, part of it I gotta sleep, like to have some good food, but like overall, like it's like an investment in your portfolio, right? Do you invest your money to lose it all? Or investing to hopefully like it delivers returns? And your time should work the same way. Doesn't matter if a startup failed, like I invested it in something really interesting. I learned something really cool and really valuable, right? And then can I live a life where I can basically like be giving more to society instead of taking? They're kind of simple. They're simple principles. I'm a simple man.
Tell us a little bit more about how things are changing. You told me a story about filing some patents. Tell us how many patents do you have right now for your newest venture? 3 patents.
Yep.
And you came up with these.
Yep.
Tell us about it.
So basically the way they started is, not everything is patentable. Some of them some ideas aren't worth patenting. But it really started with like, again, going back to, and then here's how things sort of chain together. So this AI chat company that I had was a really good chat server. What I was really trying to build at that time, I had some great customers like the Yankees, the Houston Rockets, all these like really prestigious accounts. And what problem I was trying to solve was to basically turn your website into ChatGPT. So when you go to the Houston Rockets site, basically like, hey, I'm interested in like to schedule, boom, we integrate with NBA stats feed, show that. Hey, I'd like to go to a game next week. Great, we integrate with Ticketmaster, buy whatever seat that you want, without having to go to the site, click all this stuff. The chat service would deliver that. Oh, I want to buy Sanguine's jersey. Great, we interface with Shopify. And then, oh, I'm coming to the game tomorrow. I don't have season tickets. Where do I park? Oh, I'm a vegetarian. Like, what food options do I have? I'm going to the Yankee Stadium in section 132. Where can I get a beer? However, when I went out to talk to both customers and investors, like customers I talked to are like, look, Toby, first, your chat service is good. I have one. I don't want to go through the pain of upgrading. So it's like, all right, well, I'm really not addressing a huge pain point. Or I don't have one, but it's not a priority for me right now. And what investors told me when I talked to them, like, look, your technology is good, but in an AI chat world, so think about it, like the interface to the web has been a website. People went to websites and learned and bought stuff. That's changing. So Toby, you're building technology for an asset that is depreciating. Why would I invest in that kind of business? And it's true, I don't know the future of websites. Like right now, I've actually bought stuff now, never went to the website. I bought a leisure suit because I went to a wedding in New York. I asked ChatGPT, like, hey, what are the coolest leisure suits to buy? I'm going to this wedding. Here's the vibe of it. It brought up tiles of like 8 different products. I clicked on one. I don't even know who it was. Never went to the website. I actually bought it. And whatever the brand was, it served right now the ChatGPT, Shopify has an integration with ChatGPT. And I bought it right there. Never went to the website, ever. Right? The same thing with like, I buy more stuff on Instagram than I do on Amazon today. So it knows like the cool, crazy stuff that I like. And I'm like, oh, I like this. Like, oh, size. I don't even know who makes it. It just looks really cool. And then I like pick my size or whatever. And then I Apple Pay it. Said, hey, you still live in 122 8th Avenue? Yep, done. The thing shows up. I'm like, oh, this is awesome, right? Like easy, right? Making life easy for you. So that set me off on like, we have some good technology, orchestration layer, integration, all this stuff, some valuable IP. And so I'm like, I could tell, like, this isn't going to go anywhere, right? So that's sometimes where, like, like, time to cut date on something. But I was able to sell it to a company that does basically AI and internet agentic development, their development shop, and they could use my IP and get higher margins on projects for customers. So instead of building this stuff out, they just leverage my IP. So it wasn't like a huge grand slam, but it was a good return. And I learned a ton, right? Never, it's my first kind of AI company. I want to get my feet wet. I want to roll in my sleeves. But that idea of like, Toby, what's the future of websites? Got me really thinking like, oh, that's an interesting problem, right? Then I started learning like what AI discovery is, like how do LLMs work? What problems are customers going to have? And right now it's acute. Like every SEO person I talk to, like, Toby, like every dollar I spend does not give me the same return I used to have. Like my CEO is all over me. I just had an interview with a guy who runs like a NetSuite ERP implementation. He's like, I spent so much money on SEO and it's evaporating immediately right now. Yeah, because user behavior is changing, right? People are like going on chat. So that allowed me basically to start really focusing on that problem. So like as a kind of a product guy, there's a certain process you still do. Like engineers need these things called product requirements. What's your product supposed to do? Who's your target audience? And so started basically with that, like some customer discovery, and I was able to use AI to help me build the best marketing requirements document I've ever built my entire life. And learn, instead of trying to find a tech guy, like explain like how an internal model makes a call. What's an external call? Like what's a web search? Like what does the LLM actually do, right? It would have taken me so long to learn that stuff that I was able to start learning so fast with either Claude or GPT that no human being could have taught me that as fast as it did. And like the tool gets good if you start like pulling threads, go deeper, right? Not just surface level. Okay, if it did this, what about this? What about this? What about this? What about that? Right? And this and this and this, right? Okay, where am I off track, right? And so that, and my engineer said, Toby, I've never seen requirements documents or information architecture documents like this in my entire life. But I needed to bring my institutional knowledge to that, right? It wasn't just like, oh, I've never built a product, like, hey, make me a product manager, right? Then chat's not that helpful for you. But taking what I knew and how to apply that and learn more, learn faster, right? So, and then from there that led to like, okay, we're building this, like, what's really patentable here, right? Spend some time asking, and then again, start a prompt, like, well, why do you think this is really patentable? Why is this really valuable? Why is this time worthy of my time to actually go through the filing and the expense to do that? And it laid out those options. And I sometimes will use the models with each other, like, do you agree with this? Do you not agree with that, right? Again, expanding, pulling threads, like really getting to the heart, not just like one or two prompts, like 10, 20, 30 prompts around the same subject matter. And then from there, felt like there were some patents that normally you would have to go to a lawyer. At a minimum, you're paying $10,000 to $20,000 for a decent patent. And so, again, I had to iterate, no, it really does this, like knew what the technology was, what the patent was, and I got it to a point, and I had a really good patent attorney, and I went to him, I said, on a scale of 1 to 10, rate this. He's like, a 9.9. A 9.9, right? Yeah, maybe you could make it a little bit better, right? But it didn't cost me $10,000. So 3 patents would have cost me 30 grand, plus they would have charged me filing fees, and it was kind of a bitch to figure out how to file it. But like doing screenshots, asking AI, like how do I file this the right way? But like all that cost, time, money evaporated, completely gone.
So instead of paying $30,000,
I paid $325 per patent.
I think.
And I still ran all that within my $20 version of ChatGPT.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
It really is the game changer, the AI revolution. It's happening now, and you're really riding that wave. One of the students asked specifically, you talk about, so search engine optimization, normally those were keywords, you had to go through Google, you would pay for ads to get your link, that blue link to be up higher on the page. Now we're doing GEO, right? Generative search engine, well, generative engine.
Mm-hmm.
And so now it's about how well can your chat find you, right?
Yep.
Which is kind of what your
Yep.
company is now. Do you want to just tell us a little bit more about what your company does?
So again, not knowing much, so kind of read like a primer book, so I'm kind of a geeky, like how do LLMs actually work, like what's a vector database, what's a RAG model, what's the temperature setting. Just, I didn't really need it, but I kind of like to geek out on that stuff. So again, I'm not writing code, but want to kind of have a good foundational learning. And then from there, it's like, okay, I got to figure out, like, okay, people are going to be, if chat is the new interface to the web, like, where am I going to start with this, right? So started just learning that, okay, what are people prompting and what is the LLM's behavior? So the first thing started learning, which was like, it basically has two primary states. So first of all, it's like, it sucked up the entire digital universe, right? And then it's got a reasoning and a generative layer, and it's insanely smart, if you know how to use it right. So when you ask it a question that's internal to the model, like, who are the Knights Templar? It doesn't have to, that information is internal to the model. So it just goes, okay, it basically knows, like, as you're typing, it's parsing, it gets that information, delivers you a really good answer, better answer than anybody else could ever deliver. Or like, when did California become a state? So that's one. But for businesses, they're not asking those questions. Consumers are looking for dog shampoo or face moisturizer or an ERP application. That behavior generates a different response from the LLM. So it does start looking like what's internal, but it's really expensive to ingest the entire internet. So it does it like every few years. And there's new products, new services, everything new is happening. So what it has to do then is called a web search. This is where things get really nutty. So it looks internal and says, oh, I got to go outside of my model to figure that out. So this is where it's challenging, where it's picking up scraps, it's inferring things, it's sort of looking at SEO, but as you're typing, it's sort of looking like grouping of that vector database, like ERP companies, dog shampoo companies. And it's similar to like when it's training a model, it's like feeding it like a bunch of sevens, like sevens are all over here, cats are all over here, dogs are all over here, right? So it's basically, as it does that, it gets really complex. I started like, well, how is it deciding what's going into an answer, right? It's a massively big black box. So really started working with getting technical, like what is actually going on? What's the behavior here? And what I found out was that it starts also picking, it does two things when it starts to build the answer. First, it starts out with eligibility. Who is eligible to be in this answer? So that, again, as you're typing, it's already parsing and knowing like, okay, of the universe, here could be 100 companies or so. Then from there, it starts to validate, right? It does this in milliseconds. Like, okay, like what information did I get about their website? How long have they been around? And then what ends up happening is we found out there are 5 universal signals for inclusion. So at first it looks like, how credible is this company? Because the last thing it wants to do is put a really bad company in that answer. Because if it does that and you can't trust it anymore, then the service sucks and you're not going to use it. So it has to do a really good job of answering that for you. And it's challenging because it's not going to the website. It's inferring information. So what it's going to do today, it's going to lean towards more established companies. And some of them might not even really deliver the service that you've asked for, but like, if I put, a big telco like AT&T in there, I'm not going to look bad. But if I put, Tom's mobile service in there, I'm going to look really bad. So what we have to start doing is looking at like, what is it including and why? So we start looking at these inclusion signals, like how credible, what does credibility look like? What's it actually looking at? What is your standing in the marketplace? How long have you been around? Have you raised any money? Do you have any customers? And it's looking basically at your content relevancy, like how relevant is your content? Then it looks at basically like, what accolades do you have, right? And so this is where the LLM starts also looking at like, okay, let me look at third-party corroborating sources. So I want to make sure I get this answer right. So it might be like, depending what it is, if it's a business, it might like, well, do they have a Yelp page? Do they have good, bad Yelp reviews? I'm going to look at Better Business. I'm going to look at this whole thing. So where the LLM is very transparent, some places it's really opaque, some places it's transparent. So when it's showing you what citations it's looking at, it's super transparent because it wants to show I'm doing my homework. It's like doing like long division. Like, look at my work, teacher. I really know how to do this, right? I just didn't copy off Nada next to me. So, so it's looking at these accolades, and it's looking at like also like media coverage. It's looking at some businesses like, do they have a Reddit thread on there? And we expose and tell you all that. So if you weren't included, we tell you like, why not? Who was included? Why were they included, right? So we built out this entire decision intelligence platform as a tool to help businesses understand how they orient their business around AI chat. And that's also like, what questions should I be in? What questions should I not be in? So it's a really complex problem to solve. So we start by basically LLMs are fairly what's called probabilistic, which means that it's generative. It's going to give you different answers every time. That's really hard computing problem to solve. So what we ended up starting out with was, this is where one of my patents lies, which was how to build a deterministic model. So what deterministic means is that basically the same inputs give you the same output. So if you went to a calculator and said 1 + 1 should always give you 2, unless it's on Quaaludes or something. So what we looked at was like any high school kid could build a spider, grab some information from your site, and shove it into applied AI. Like, who do you think this company is? And like, what customers do you think they have? But in order to get it deterministic, what we had to figure out was a lot of our secret sauce, which was how to break out that information into discrete pipelines. How to basically break that out. And then what we figured out also is like how many passes that we're going to run it through to get a more deterministic vision of who AI thinks that company is. There's certain prompting that goes around that, ordering around that, and a lot of magic around how we do that so that in a deterministic way, and every time I run it by business, like, that's who we are, that's our industry, and nailed our customer personas. So with that foundation, it's like, here's how AI sees you. So like, how do you start solving a problem if you have no idea how AI sees you? So we started really looking at like getting deep into figuring that out, right? And that's a lot of time. There's no way in hell without AI I could have figured that out. It probably would have taken me like a year that I figured out in a couple months. But you have to know what you're asking and what you're looking for, asking the right questions, right? It's like when I used to teach at Stanford, I could tell how smart a student was based on the question that they asked, right? It's just a dumb question where they're just trying to like raise their hand and get credit for class participation, or they really thought about, hey, Toby's talking about a really interesting concept right here. Like, I have a really interesting question. Like, oh, that's a really great question, right? So that was really like the underpinnings. And then also learning that, you know, my CTO is amazing. He solves really hard problems, but he also hates doing like menial things because he's such a good engineer. And that drives me batshit crazy. Like, I'll like, hey man, you didn't QA and QC this right. Yeah, I'll get to it, Toby. And but the hard problems, like I could never do it. Like, it's incredible database architect, stuff that I could never do. But, so I'm like, oh, I want to solve this problem. This is driving me batshit crazy. I'm like, hey Tom, do you think I could use Claude Code? Yeah, can you start teaching me how to use it? Yeah, I can give you like really fast primer. All right, let's get you set up on Terminal on your Mac, get Claude installed on there, get you your GitHub account. And these were all things like I didn't have a month ago. And then started looking at like, okay, like I think learned how to start using, experimenting, screwed some stuff up. And then now I'm like, okay, I can install some really stuff. So like went into Stripe, figured out how to create our SKUs, like, and asked like ChatGPT, like, how do I set this up, right? I take screenshots, like I don't understand this, right? Faster, like getting really good answers, like having the most amazing teacher sitting like on my shoulder, right? Then I create my SKUs. I'm like, okay, now I want to wire it up to my front end, right? I want the website to look like this. Here's what I want it to do. And basically, like, did all that. Like, get the secret API key all myself. I didn't write one line of code. I'm like, oh, where am I going to host this thing? I looked at like, started asking like, what are the best places to host? Well, here's what we're looking for, the characteristics of what we do. Again, like a lot of different prompts. Well, you could go for Cell, or you could go Railway. I'm like, oh, tell me more about Railway. Oh, that's the perfect platform for us. Like, perfectly built for our use case. Bam, drop on Railway. I had a domain. I got to move this over there. Network Solutions absolutely sucks. And like, again, like, I'm not writing any code here, folks. Figuring out really hard problems, like really fast, really efficient. Oh, find out Cloudflare is awesome. There's a free tier for that. Boom, like setting up like text records, MX records, all of it. Like, boom, tell me how to do all of that. Bam, like that's all done. Oh, when someone creates an account, I need to basically be able to like send them an email verification on that. What's the best service that? Oh, resend. Awesome. Like, how do I set that up? Boom, set resend up. Like, all that's working now, right? So now I feel like way more in control. I can move the velocity of our product faster together. And plus I have like, he's not a product guy. So he's like an engineer, right? I'm sitting there like, as the product guy, because like I've run companies, I know what the product needs to do, so I can like apply my capability and channel it in a way more powerful way, right? Contributing massively cool code into what we're doing without writing it. But also like, again, knowing like, I didn't ask the right question there, or like, it might be hallucinating right here, right? And like, literally like, it's so funny because one of our biggest challenges right now is that when you ask one of these open-ended questions, when it starts looking internal and then it does what's called a web search or retrieval on, or in the case of Gemini, it's called grounding, where it automatically kicks out and does a search. Well, that broke for us, right? And I was going batshit crazy. So like Sunday night, I'm like, oh, we're good. The customer flow is just about done. And all of a sudden, like this massive problem. It's like literally worked till 12 o'clock at night, working on trying to, and thought I had it. Like, and I was testing it like, was it grounding? Was it grounding? And I was like running all the questions that I was testing from what's called the UI version, or like as a user, and I was getting different answers. And I'm like, God, this thing sucks. Anyway, went to bed at night, I was exhausted, and thought I had it figured out. So I did a pull request in GitHub, texted my CTO, and I'm like, and then literally like I was exhausted, but I get a call 6 in the morning, I'm literally still sleeping, I'm like, hello, and it's Tom. So like, fuck that dude, I gotta get up. Literally like, just make me coffee, my hair's a mess, and I like worked till like 11 to try to figure that out. We thought we had it, and it turns out it wasn't, and he and I have been bantering back and forth, he was just texting me here. But like the point is like to get really focused on solving like really hard problems. And like, again, I'm not a software engineer. And yet the product that we're building, I'm able to apply what I can do well. Intellectual curiosity, working really hard, learning how to use that tool, right? Not quitting, digging in, and just like loving the stuff I'm doing. Some days, yeah, it's crazy. But I will tell you, like, not as going to best, like I am a really restless soul. When I'm not working, I'm literally so bored I want to hang myself. And when I am, I'm like, Toby, why are you working so hard? And like, but this is what I've learned. That's just how I'm wired. That's just it. So I can fight it, or like, I figure out my downtimes. Like I'm gonna be taking off on a plane tomorrow with my grandkids in Florida to see my parents. That'll be some downtime for me, right? So I'll regenerate that. But I don't work like, every day at 12, I gotta like, my clock has to get reset. I just don't work that way. It's a feeling, it's a rhythm, it's a flow.
It's knowing yourself.
Knowing yourself,
yeah.
Or not knowing yourself.
So let's see, you are in a problem right now. You're having your non-grounding, but you're expecting to start revenue next week.
Yep.
Tell us, you're an enterprise company, is that right?
We are. I'm also working on a small business because I think we produce so much proprietary information that's really valuable. And so also been thinking about kind of an SMB-oriented product. So one of the ways that, again, thinking long and hard about, because building a business takes a lot of like kind of threading the needle, right? Or the planets have to align. Not only like if I identified the right problem, do I have the right product, then I can also figure out like how am I going to get customers, right? Those are hard problems to solve. And so when I sit down, it takes me like a half hour to explain my product. Once I do, like someone goes, oh, I understand AI discovery, Toby. Like, I got it. But like, good Lord, like if I can spend a half hour with everybody explaining AI discovery, like I'm not gonna have a really good business. So I started thinking about like how to solve for that. And came up with this really cool idea, which was, the analog is this. Anyone have a credit card out here? All right, in order to get that credit card, you need this thing called the FICO score. Or you need to like, sign a lease, they're going to run your credit. And what your FICO score is like the health of your credit. If your FICO score is low, you're not going to get a credit card because people think you're not going to be able to pay it, right? So it's the most important metric in determining your credit health is your FICO score. And then there's these two guys from MIT that started HubSpot around 2005 when SEO just got invented. So the king CRM product was always Salesforce. Enterprise product, who thinks you could compete against them? But Salesforce was always like push, like send emails out, make calls, all outbound sales activity. And these guys from MIT, basically when SEO first came out, built basically a marketing tool that basically looked at utilize, like optimizing for SEO so people would actually come to you versus you using Salesforce to go to them. So it's more a pull versus push. And what they built was called the Website Grader. And what it was basically they analyzed your website and how SEO ready and friendly it was. Of course, if you get a low score, you probably want to get a good score. So I've created the analog for that called AVDI. It stands for AI Vendor Discovery Index. It's basically the health of your website to AI discovery. And you get a score. It's a really cool comprehensive report. The way I built it, I explained it all, like the things we looked at, like is your site discoverable? Do you have like a robots.txt site? Like all this important shit that you need on your site in order to even be like, to have your site crawlable by an LLM crawler. So that's kind of my wedge going at it, which is like, and I'm going to monetize that. What I hope is I can actually like make money generating leads. And I'm going after agencies. So what do digital agencies need? They need more revenue. They need more customers. Well, guess what? If SEO is going away, how are they going to generate revenue? I got the perfect product for you. Why don't you learn how to deliver AI discovery services to your customers? They're going to pay you a lot for that because they really need that. And the SEO shit is tanking right now. So the easiest way for me to like approach them, like, oh, do I set up a meeting? And then try to get a half hour of their time, educate them, like all the adoption cycles, like it's friction. It's really hard to do. So like, here's my idea. So now that I have this AVI report, I want people calling me. So what, and I'm working with a UCSC intern. She was at Slug Tank. For those that, there's a plug for Slug Tank. Slug Tank's awesome, you should do it. Somebody got an internship out of it. So anyway, I'm like, look, Lorena, like let's do this. Let's have, I want you to research the top 100 GEO and AEO and SEO agencies in the United States. And she did an amazing job. Like, here, Toby, here's the spreadsheet. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to run AVDI scores for every one of my stack rank them. And so think of it this way. US News and Reports does a report every year and ranks the top 100 colleges. So this is going to be that. So I'm going to publish this. I'm going to build thought leadership around that. I'm going to tag these people in it. And obviously, if you're not like at the bottom of that, you're probably calling me up. Or if you're top of it, yeah, I'm the best. Like you're going to cite my AVDI report. Like the highest AVDI score of any like GEO or AEO company. So it's kind of thinking outside the box. Like, God, do I do reach out, right? So now I'm building a platform where I think I can generate noise, I can generate buzz, and get people calling me instead of me having to pay. And guess what? For every report they run is $20. So when they see it, they're like, oh, I should run this for all my customers right now because I want to try to like get AI discovery service business from them. Oh, I'm prospecting new customers. I should run this AVDI report for them and say, hey, you're really not doing too well. I can help you improve your AI discovery score. So again, it's a lot of like just thinking really creatively outside the box and like revolting against status quo.
You're very good at that. I want to open it up to you all. I think, any questions from the audience?
Yeah, thank you for coming here, first of all. I think, as you know, if you were giving this kind of exact talk at Stanford, or if you were to be, proctoring or teaching this class at Stanford, I mean, the line would be out the door, right? And so I always kind of think, like, that's obviously not the case here, and the unique advantage here is being, like, maybe the big fish in the small pond. I mean, why do you think that is, and maybe how can we use that to our advantage, being here?
Frame that again?
So I mean, here as opposed to somewhere like Stanford, look at this room, right? It's not very full. How would you, I guess, use the advantage of being here in Santa Cruz versus being up at Stanford to kind of differentiate yourself when making?
Look, and I think it boils down to the most important thing is it's less about the prestige. And like the reason that I ended up going there was like I had a really good relationship with a really talented entrepreneur, and she did her undergraduate at Stanford. She's been a successful venture capitalist, like broke the woman's glass ceiling so many times. Started teaching there, and then asked if I would come. She's like, look, no harm, no foul. Give it one class if you like it, you don't. The school had an amazing president, this guy named John Hennessy, who was like, literally adored his faculty, right? Made life really easy because he really valued like people that are teaching here I want to make sure they love teaching here, right? And unlike traditional university, I don't have a PhD. I don't even have a master's degree, right? What did he value? He valued like me to bring real world business experience into the classroom. You also need great PhDs. Like you need, he saw like, again, the diversity. Like I want to bring in the most richest, not just like vanilla looks like this or that. Like how do we like solve for that, right? So it was enjoyable, I think, because it was the right time, right moment versus like, oh man, like I want to work at Stanford, just gonna look great on my resume, right? And I think like when I left, all like my business colleagues said, are you out of your mind? Like you're leaving a faculty position at Stanford? I'm like, yeah, because I don't like it, right? So like, why sign up for vanity in life? Why sign up for what other people think of you? Doesn't really matter. Like I got what I wanted out of it, but it wasn't for like, oh, because I did it because like the sort of planets aligned, and the experience was really good, and it, like the flow hit, right? The resonance hit, and then similar to when. When I left, when I retired from US Web, I had an offer to be a venture capital partner at SoftBank and CrossPoint Ventures. There's two things that really repulsed me about that. Number one was I'm not really wired well to be a venture capitalist because you have to make a bunch of bets and 9 out of 10 are probably going to fail. That seems like a shitty job to have. Right? That means I gotta like, you as a VC, you have to decide like, well, if you know you're not gonna make it, you basically have to like cut bait, stop, because your time's important. Your limited partners would go apeshit on you if you're like spending your time on something that's not gonna return money for them, right? So that was like a part of like, this seems like a shitty job. Like, why would I want to do this? Right? Oh, prestige, more homes, more material, like material things at home, like that doesn't matter to me, right? And so, and the other thing is like, I'm not gonna throw every VC under the bus, but like a lot of them are just D-bags. Like they have massively huge egos. And what boiled down to them was like, I bought into the Warren Buffett philosophy of wealth creation. What wealth creation for me doesn't mean like, how many homes do I have around the world? Do I have a fractional jet? What am I driving? Like what Warren Buffett said was like, wealth's really measured, not what you make, it's what you don't spend. So like, what did I say was the most valuable thing here? Remember?
Time.
It's time, right? So that's what wealth means for me, is time. Time to do what I want. So I'm lucky enough where I did well. I also like gave a ton away, right? And also because if I live a really modest lifestyle where my expenses aren't huge, then I gotta keep getting these massive jobs to pay for multiple homes, high tax bills, like that's not who I am and what I want to be, right? It feels good where like, if the market doesn't do well, like I'm not freaked out where like my retirement's screwed, or I got like, oh, I got to sell my Maserati and my place down in Brazil or whatever, right? So I think it just sort of goes like, who are you? Like, what's true to you? You know, and I don't have all the answers. Like there are days like I don't even know like who I am or what I'm doing, and I've just like learned to like not stress over the things that like are outside of my control. So this is where I'm happiest, to be honest with you. Like this is a gift to me. And like, as I said, like I said that the world's creating more problems than opportunities. What else I say at the beginning of my talk? I'm here to plant seeds. I don't care where the seeds are. Could be at Cabrillo, could be at a high school, could be at a middle school. It doesn't really matter, right? You're here, you're obviously interested in the course, and for me, it's more of a privilege to be here. And because I'm right now interfacing with the future of the world, right? You're the leaders of tomorrow, right? Your perspectives are interesting. What you're thinking about are interesting. Your ideas are really interesting. Things that you build are really interesting, right? And that's why a lot taught at Stanford, like the same thing, like a window into the future, right? Yeah, and like in the early days, it was really great. It was good till it wasn't good. And like, I got a piece out of here, man. Like, I'm not living for how my LinkedIn looks. I'm not living what people think of me. Yeah, I care about myself. I want to do really great work, but you know, it's like, hey man, can I have a comfortable life? And can I, more importantly, like if I don't like what I'm doing, can I stop working or do something else? That to me is like the gift of life, right? And that's basically what I solve for.
Thank
So it's cool to be here.
Yeah.
Plus, I love this campus.
Go ahead.
My hearing is really bad now. You're going to have to help translate for me. I got
Can
surfers
you,
here.
Sorry. Hi, thank you for coming in and taking your time to answer these questions. Honestly, this opportunity means I'm sure a lot to a lot of people in this room. Do you recommend any sort of small project that students can begin right now, specifically something that may not take like a lot of like prior skill? Because I know when you talk about your own experience, a lot of it may seem like kind of intimidating for people like get to that point. But do you recommend like any sort of like project that people can start right now to develop their skills in business?
I only got half of that. What was the question?
She's asking how to start something small to develop the skills.
Ah, okay.
What would be like a
Yeah.
project?
God, that's a really good question. The answer is really, I'll just go back to like where I started with like Brand Capsule, which was a thread of, hey, I got some insight that SEO is going away. That's kind of a small, really early surface level starting point, right? It could have been, I actually started experimenting with lots of other really cool stuff. So for example, one area I started looking at before even Tool was, I found this really cool polymer product. And basically, like, it's amazing. You usually like burn 50 gallons of gasoline when you wash your car, go through a car wash. This thing basically, you mix it in with water and use like, I don't know, half a gallon. It's this cool polymer thing. And I actually like called the company up. I talked to the CEO. And so you take basically a microfiber cloth, dampen it. It literally not only wipes all the dirt off your car, it leaves this polymer, like it's like your car's been polished and it stays that way for ages. So I started basically like, oh, this would be really cool. Like, how could I build this business? Like, I literally could save so much water, really cool, employ people. Like, maybe they could be Uber driving and then could basically like go do a car wash in here and make money. The problem is so I just started really small and just started like winding in. I found like so many problems with it. I found like one, like you really want to do it where you can have like contract workers. State of California doesn't allow you to do that. So I was like, oh, maybe I could like manifest it at like a country club or a golf course where people are parking their cars all the time. And there again, like I just ran into so many problems with the business model. But again, I was just wanted to learn how to use AI. Even though like I spent a lot of time trying to think about this idea, I spent time talking to the CEO there. It just didn't work out. It was a really small way to start, right? There's another one, like I'm still kind of like, I don't know, I haven't spent a lot of time, but I read this article about this really cool, basically Turkish ice cream. It's kind of like taffy, but it's ice cream. And started like building recipes around that. And then again, got basically kind of farther along and started running the economics. And I'm like, I really can't make it's a really cool business, but like way too much friction. Juice isn't worth the squeeze. So I think like literally like there's the sky's the limit. Like what are you excited about? Music or art or a type of business or it's just like literally like and like what preceded that, like what I've also done is like I try to pick like one thing new every month. And if I don't like it, so be it, I tried it. Like 1 month I remember trying to write like haikus. It seemed like really cool to do, right? Or puzzles. So I think like that tends to manifest itself into like a learning mode. And then you figure out like what you like and don't like. And then also like my behaviors change. So one, I like physical books. I learn better. Remember, I have a comprehension problem. So like the feel of the book, I highlight, I underline, all my notes are in there, and I absorb better right from that. But in the old days, if I bought a book, like, oh, I got to read the whole thing cover to cover, and I'm like, and then eventually dawned on me, like, this is really stupid. I don't like this book, and I'm wasting my time. So now, like, the old Toby would have never, ever, like, stopped reading a book. Now, if I read part of it, I don't like it. I'm like, I'm done with it. I drive around and find one of those little homes where people have books, houses you can shove in. Like, yeah, I'm gonna shove this in. So I think like just pick anything and start, and that thread's gonna lead to something else, right? And then maybe you'll figure out like, maybe it's building a website. Just start there, right? Or a sewing club. They're literally like, it's just unlimited, and you'll start to figure out as you start digging in and using AI as a tool to help you vet the idea, learn better, competitive intelligence. And that's what's so special about it, is that it allows you to learn so quickly at an unprecedented level. And like, that is value. Like, you know, that's why your generation's smarter than mine. Like, when you want to learn something, it's right here. Like, when I wanted to learn something, I had to go to this place called the library. A library was a place with books. And if I want to learn like about the Ottoman Empire, I had to pull this thing out called an encyclopedia and like read it, probably plagiarize some stuff out of it, right? So now, like, as great as this technology is, we're at orders of magnitude unlimited potential with where you are today. You couldn't be in a more interesting time in the lifespan of being a human being.
I think it's a great place to end. Class is over. Thank you all for coming. Thank you.
Yeah,
to
that's awesome. I think the following question is I'm at TJ Corey, C-O-R-E-Y, at UCSC.edu. You can all do it.
TJ Corey at UCSC.edu.
Yeah,
And I'll
so
put it in
anyway.
our class.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.